did not incarnate here with the heart that you have and with the chart that you have for you to be normal. Hi, my name is Haley Comet, and welcome to my cosmic corner of the internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today all things Leo new moon, August 16th, 2023, and you. Ooh, this one's a juicy one. This new moon is the cosmic permission slip that you have been waiting for to essentially say, F it. F it. I'm sick of trying to be what other people want me to be. I'm sick of trying to fit into this role of what is expected of me. I'm sick of trying to embody this mold of what has been casted for me. I was not designed for this. I'm sick of being expected to stay silent, just keep a smile on, when there is something that is wrong here. When I am out of integrity of my own personal truth, when I do stay silent on this. This is a new moon about embodying your authentic desires, your authentic passions, regardless of the feathers that it will ruffle. Because when it comes to this rebellious new moon, it will likely ruffle some feathers. There are many aspects of this new moon that are very inconvenient, particularly inconvenient when it comes to the normal way of doing things, the normal way of being. But you did not come here, you did not incarnate here, you do not have this wide, beautiful chart with all of these different facets to follow the path of what is normal. You are here to follow the path of what feels right for you, of where your heart lies. Leo governs the heart space, and Leo as a sign is ruled by the sun. And there are components of this new moon about, yes, embodying our sunshine, what lights us up, where our heart is, what it is that we love. But it's equally about embodying our shadow. You cannot have sun without some shadows, right? And it's about going into the recesses of what within ourselves we have pushed down. Because sometimes, yes, it's society that puts us into a mold, that tries to fit us into a box. But sometimes we do that to ourselves. We take aspects of ourselves that we're like, this is unlovable, push that into the shadows. This is a part of me that I don't like, push it into the shadows. This is a new moon about going into those shadows and facing what it is that you've hid from yourself, around ways that you've tried to fit into a mold, the ways that you've tried to push aspects of yourself into the darkness. Ignore, ignore, ignore. This is a new moon about embodying all of what you are, which is not just your talents and the lovely facets about you. It's also about those aspects of yourself that you consider ugly or flawed or what have you. It's about embodying that, because this too is part of your path. And the more that we push into the shadows and try to act like it's not there, keep it covered by a smile, keep it covered by a smile, the more powerful it can grow. And the more power we leak out. An empowered person is somebody who is self-aware about every facet of their being. This is a new moon about spotlighting your authentic desires and not feeling any sort of shame or guilt from them. And it's also a new moon about self-love, and that means loving the ugly parts of yourself too. That means loving the flawed parts of yourself too that you try to ignore. This is a new moon about embodying all of your authenticity, not just your weirdness and your quirks and your talents and your passions and your desires, but also your flaws, those aspects of yourself that you still have shame over. And of course, this has a unique story for you based on where it lands within your chart. Fear not, we'll be breaking it down, every single sign, every single house. I'll be showing you how to find where it lands within your chart. And before you jump to the individual reading, make sure to check out the collective forecast, because when I say this is a collective call for shadow work, it is a collective call to question what is normal, what is the status quo, because oftentimes following the status quo, or what is prescribed to us as the normal expected path, is a recipe for misery if it's not in alignment with our path. And you might not know exactly where that path is going to take you at that moment. That is okay. But this is a new moon about anchoring into what it is that you know now, where it is that you shine, what lights you up. Your heart will guide the way. So we'll be breaking that down within the collective forecast. So before we dive into all of the Leo new moon, rebel with a cause energy, I just want to make a brief announcement that August is the final month that you can jump into self-care astrology and get access to the group classes where we utilize your natal natal chart through examples. So Self-Care Astrology is an 8-week astrology course led and taught by me. There's options where you can just move through at a self-study pace, and then of course have the group classes to supplement your learning. There's options as well if you are craving one-on-one support through the program. You can work with me either via voice memo support every single week, or also add on one-on-one consultations to really guide and support your learning. And I'm super excited to announce what classes will be part of this season's workshop series. Just so you know, if you ever jump into Self-Care Astrology, you will get the invitations to the workshops that we hold twice a year. So once you jump in, you're part of the container. So if you're already in the container, I hope you can make it to the classes. So what we'll be learning about this year, I'm so excited for what we have slated. So very aligned with this new moon. Our first class this series is called Virtues and Vices within the birth chart, to really look at our tendencies around self-undoing, our tendencies around vices, where we can take things too far, and how to really counteract those influences. I'm also so excited. We're gonna have guest speakers in this round. One of the Self-Care Astrology alums, Melanie, will be guiding us in a workshop series about how to attract your soulmate. She's a Libra sun. Who knows about relationships more than Libra suns? So on the note of relationships, we'll also be talking about karmic connections within astrology, how to tell if you've had past lives with somebody, how you can learn what the purpose of connecting with that person was. We'll be talking about how to anchor into your most authentic brand, really dialing into the birth chart around how it is that you're meant to reach the public, how you can interweave that into your art or into your business or what have you. And then we'll be wrapping up with an Evolving Through Eclipses workshop, which is all about the eclipses that are coming up in October 2023, what they're bringing to the surface within your chart, how to navigate that time. It's gonna get a little wild, so we're doing a workshop to gather about it. So if any of those topics sound interesting, we would so love to have you as part of the container, and all of the information will be below. And you can get access to those classes whether you jump into the moon course, Luminary Self-Care, or the 8-week full astrology course, Self-Care Astrology. Both are options, and I would love to have you there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into collective Leo new moon forecast. So you may be asking, Haley Comet, what makes this new moon so explosive, so volatile, so rebellious? Let's break down everything you need to know about this Leo new moon. Firstly, it lands on August 16th at 2:38 a.m. PDT. Please note, based on where you are located within the world, that very well may be the prior day, the day after. Make sure to adjust your time zone. And it lands at 23 degrees Leo. Now, that portion of the sky will bring up a certain life arena that you are being asked to lean into in order to embody your authenticity in its fullest, no matter how much that embodiment can anger and upset other people. So we'll be breaking that down. But firstly, let's get familiar. What is this new moon all about? And what about it is so fiery, so ferocious? Of course, it lands in the sign Leo, the lion. The lion, it could be cuddly and sweet, but it can also have a roar to it. And sometimes you have to roar in this life. And you have to be able to embody that you are somebody who roars. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the facets of this new moon have to deal with these energies of shame. Because again, we can demonize our anger. We could be like, well, you should just be polite and sweet. But let me tell you, I'm all about being polite and sweet when appropriate, okay? But there are other times when it is not appropriate for you to be polite and sweet. There are times that you need to fiercely roar out your boundaries, or fiercely roar and stand up for yourself. You need to tap into your roar, and you need to not demonize your roar. You need to let people know who it is that they're dealing with, that you will not be put into a box, that you will not play this role just because it's what's convenient for other people. You did not come here with the talents that you have, with the chart that you have, with the heart that you have, to be as convenient as possible, to ruffle as little feathers as possible, to keep the peace as much as possible. Obviously, we want to navigate life. We want to make people happy. We want to navigate with as little conflict as possible, but not at the expense of your own integrity, not at the expense of your own passion. Tap into your roar. It's so necessary in navigating this life. And we need to remember, while we tap into our inner roar, like Leo is the king or the queen of the jungle. Like, you are here to be the main character of your life, to be the king or the queen of your life. Not just be a side character in other people's stories, being as nice and polite and okay as possible. This is not easy. And I'm not saying you need to walk into work on Monday morning and start flipping tables and screaming and saying, I'm done with this. Like, not at all. But what I am saying is that if you feel like you have just been suppressing aspects of yourself, you've just been biting your tongue for so long, you have just been dealing with disrespect around things that are not okay with you. If you feel like you are living this life that doesn't even look like yours any longer because you've been on autopilot, this is about remembering who it is that you are, remembering that inner lion within you, and roaring when appropriate, right? Being the leader of your own world, navigating your life powerfully and ferociously at times if the situation calls for it. And when it comes to this energy around embodying our own inner lion, right? Following our heart. What does our heart say? What is our heart in? What is our heart no longer in? Looking at a path and being like, this doesn't even look like my life any longer. I don't even recognize myself here. I don't even recognize my passions or where my heart is. This is a moment that we can be looking at our life differently. It could be like kind of a lightning bolt of awakening around being like, whose life is this? Who am I? Why am I tolerating this disrespect? Why am I tolerating my boundaries being crossed like this? Why am I tolerating living a life that doesn't even look like it belongs to me in order to be as accommodating for others as possible? There's a lightning bolt in this new moon. Let me tell you why. This new moon squares Uranus. And Uranus is that record scratch moment. It is that awakening energy. It is that lightning bolt around looking at our life and being like, no more. It's done. Because Uranus is an energy that has to do with change, has to do with innovation, has to do with weirdness, has to be with owning where our path may differ from others and honoring that as clues towards the life that's meant for us, rather than suppressing our weirdness or our quirks into the shadows, using it as clues. Wow, I'm really passionate about this. This part of my personality is really bizarre. Let me find people who appreciate that. I'm so passionate about this. Let me build a life around this where I get to connect with other people around it. Like, Uranus is the side of this new moon that's about embodying what it is that we push into the shadows that's considered weird, or where it is that we don't fit in, and seeing it as a clue. And with this energy of new moon squaring Uranus, it's also about a new start. And it gives this new moon a little bit of volatility because it's almost this energy around electrifying us and being like, no more, right? It really gives a jolt to this new moon around, I can't keep living like this. And a lot of us have been deep in this reflective space around, what is my heart in? What do my relationships look like? What is it that I value, just with Venus retrograde also conjoining this new moon? It's a way to use that data of what Venus retrograde has showed you around, my heart is in this, my heart is not in this, and using this new moon to essentially electrify your pathway forward, even if there is pushback or people who do not understand. People don't have to understand. They don't have your chart. They don't have your destiny. And like I said, I do feel like this is a new moon about, in some ways, standing up for yourself. And the only people that will mind when you enforce your boundaries are the people who were comfortable crossing them again and again and again. And with the square to Uranus, maybe this is like the lightning bolt that you needed around, like, wake up. This is not okay. You did not come here to be as accommodating and as polite and bend backwards and try to be everything to everybody and to feel so drained and so tired, because that's what living a life not in authenticity will do to us. If you've ever been around people that you felt like you had to perform for, like after you hang out with them, you're exhausted because you had to put on the Haley show, the Margaret show, the Tom show. You had to kind of put forth what you think that that person wants you to be, and it's exhausting. If you're working a job where you have to pretend to be someone that you are not, it's draining. It takes a lot from you, and it's hard to be fully embodied in all that you are when you're also having to co-star as this other role that's not even yours, right? So whether you're having to wear this mask as it relates to relationships, work situations, there's this energy of Uranus where it's like, no more. It's so tiring to be a people pleaser. It truly is. It is exhausting. You're literally on stage every single day, putting on a show. And if you don't get the applause that you were looking for, you feel like an absolute failure. And the thing about being a people pleaser is that when you're so busy co-starring in this side production around being Margaret's best friend who's always there for her, or being, you know, the person at work who handles everything and does everything perfectly, you don't get the opportunity to work on the role that matters within this lifetime. The role of your chart, the role of your soul, right? That is the role that will lead you to the most happiness, joy, sunshine, right? But oftentimes we're so ashamed of aspects of that role that we feel like we have to co-star in all of these different productions to put forth what we think will get the most applause. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to live that way. You have nothing left to give to the role of your authentic self. And you're even questioning, would anybody even applaud for this person, right? And so with the square to Uranus, there's just this energy around, I'm tired. I'm tired of having to play all these different roles. I want to just embody my authentic self. And maybe not everybody will understand it, but they don't have to. The right people will. That's the energy of Uranus. And the energy around shadow work, because again, this new moon does have to do with shadow work. It may be the sign of the sun, but the sun has a shadow, right? And that is embodied by its conjunction to Lilith. Now, Lilith within astrology is pulled from many different traditions, some historical, some religious. It really varies in intensity around the lore of what Lilith is pulled through. But the essence across all of the different traditions is that Lilith is about the portion of us that refuses to submit, and it's about our raw, unexpressed desires. The darkness that can exist beneath us, that we could be scared of, right? And when we break down Lilith, like one of the main traditions that Lilith is pulled from, essentially Lilith was Adam's first wife, but she refused to submit. She did not want to be anything less than equal, and thus she was shunned. She was shunned because she would not play the role that she was given. Right? She had desires that was like, no, I don't want to do this. And the energy of Lilith is around not having shame around our desires, around, hey, I actually don't want to go down this path. Hey, this path actually looks more aligned for me based on where my heart is, based on what feels right for me. And the thing is, just like Lilith was literally cast out of the Garden of Eden, oftentimes we can be demonized when we do want something different than what was prescribed to us, either by family, either by society, or again, are you shaming yourself? Are you pushing these aspects of yourself into the shadows? And with this new moon on Lilith, it's about embodying those desires for all that they are, and embodying the parts of yourself that might be a little inconvenient, that might be a little rough around the edges. Because when we have shame about ourselves, that's what makes us feel like we have to play all these different roles every single night, right? To get the applause. Because we are so ashamed of what exists within our shadows. But when we can face it and just be like, yeah, this is who it is that I am, you can see a different play. If you don't like the role of me embodying my authentic self, it must just not be the play for you, right? When you can do that, you tap into your power. And when it comes to Lilith, it's basically around those parts of us that don't conform, that can scare people. We as humans like predictability. We like to put people in molds. It saves our brain a lot of brain space. We like being like, oh, you're a surfer. Oh, you're this. But we're not here to just fit into one mold. Yes, it's easy for society to be like, this is the path of what you were prescribed. Play your role. And then oftentimes when we say, hey, I actually don't want this role, I want to do something else, you can feel the energy around feeling ridiculed, around feeling judged. Because that can make people scared or fearful when you are not conforming to the normal way of doing things. And so sorry to bring this up, but I have to. This new moon reminds me so much of the Barbie movie. Just feel like the lore of Lilith, it is a feminine archetype. But the reason there's a correlation is that within the movie, without giving anything away, it basically brings forth some questions around what is it that we expect women to be and to do, right? And it's impossible to have it all. It's impossible to be it all. And there's a lot of pressure to have it all and to be it all and to want what you're expected to want. To get married and have a child and keep the house spotless and clean, but also be working and also remember all of your friends' birthdays and also take on the domestic labor and take care of your parents and be there for your family. It's a losing battle if we try to play the role that we've been casted within society, and that's why we have to play our own one. And what will tell you what your role is meant to be is literally your heart space with this Leo new moon. It's really around, what is my heart in? Maybe my heart is, my passion would be to have children, right? That is not where everybody's heart is. And oftentimes we're programmed, especially for women, that that's where your value is. And for some people, that's what lights them up. That is their path. Your heart will guide you to that. For some individuals, maybe your heart lights up around your career. Your heart will guide you to that. Heart lights up around a certain passion project. Again, when we try to be it all and have it all, we lose. We lose. And this new moon is really around, what's the role that I want to play? And it's really around looking at your desires and being like, what are the desires that were told to me and what are my authentic ones, right? Maybe you were told, like, it's so important to have a career and girl boss and make it to the top, and then you unpack your desires and you're like, my dream day would just be to hang out with my kids. Like, that's what's so important to me. That's amazing. Maybe for some of you, when you go deeper, you're like, I was told and my parents put a lot of pressure on me to have children, but when I unpack it, that's not a genuine desire of mine. I love children, but it just doesn't make sense for me. That's amazing. And this is beyond just for women. I just wanted to bring in that theme just because Barbie is in theaters now, but it's all about getting to the root of your desires and like getting away from the role that society has expected you to play to get deeper around, where is my heart at? Because I don't want you to wake up in a life that doesn't even feel like it belongs to you because you took the path of what was expected for you. Like, I want you to take this new moon to really get to the core around, what is it that I want? What is it that I value? This is what a lot of us have been contemplating with Venus retrograde. And what is normal is not the recipe for living your happiest, most authentic, most embodied life. And if you've been running around trying to be it all and have it all with a smile on your face, trying to always be the nice girl, the good guy, never creating any trouble, just, you know, go with the flow, whatever you want, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. This new moon is about getting to your heart space and being like, where am I betraying my authentic self by just going with the flow a little too much? Like, Lilith literally took the role that was casted for her of being Adam's wife and was literally like, F that, I don't want to. No. And you can do that. You can do that within your life. If you're feeling pressured to walk down this path and you're like, I don't want to, you have the ability to switch movies. You have the ability to yell cut and get a new movie or get a new play, right? And this new moon is about giving yourself permission to write the screenplay of the most important role that you'll ever play, which is the role of your authentic life, of where your passions lie. And perhaps for you, you might be older and you might be like, Haley, Comet, I already made a lot of those big decisions, but really go into your shadow, go into the parts of you that you have suppressed or put into the shadows your entire life, and to dig deeper. Oh, I always did want to take a dance class and I never did because I feared judgment. F it. F it. It's not their play. It's not their movie. Go to that dance class. Maybe for some of you, there's been certain drama happening within the family and you've been trying to make sure everybody gets along and just keep a smile on your face. Maybe this new moon is about anchoring into your heart space and standing up for yourself, asserting your boundaries, no longer feeling like you have to play the role of the nice peacekeeper. This is really around co-creating with the cosmos, around writing your own screenplay, questioning the role that you're playing, and if it feels like you, if it makes you tired at the end of the day, because it's not you. And this new moon trines North Node in Aries, which means it's sextile South Node in Libra. And this is a collective call to embrace what's raw, what's messy around the edges, right? The energy of Libra, shadow side. Okay, I'm not coming for Libra placements, but the shadow side of Libra is feeling like we have to smooth everything under the rug and keep everything together in a pretty exterior and be harmonious and get along and be charismatic. Again, connections are important, relationships are important, but not at the expense of your integrity. Not at the expense of you feeling like you're living someone else's life because you can't be honest. And with this new moon, it's also around being honest with yourself. People pleasing is oftentimes rooted in a lot of shame around who it is that you are. So you feel like you need everyone's validation to be able to sit with yourself, to be able to love yourself. And this new moon is really about understanding, I need to love the entirety of who it is that I am. And yes, that person is not perfect. That person might be a little snappy sometimes. That person might get a little frustrated sometimes. And that is okay. Like Lilith is about those parts of ourselves that we can fear at the expense of being called bossy or too much or what have you. This is your life. These are your desires. And if they make other people uncomfortable, it's not their play, it's not their story. And so authentic self-love comes from loving not just the amazing qualities of who it is that you are, but also loving the darkness too. Loving the part of you that can be bratty, that can be bossy, that isn't happy and bubbly and smiley all of the time, right? It's about emboldening the fullest extent of who it is that you are. Even if the role that you've been assigned to play is like, just go with the flow, just smile. Again, it's important to question the role that you've been given. And if it's genuinely leading to where your heart is, to where your desires lie. So if you're feeling so connected with this energy of this Leo new moon and you're like, I just want to anchor this energy in, here are some ritual ideas. And rituals are deeply personal. And again, there's so much in this new moon that's about rebelling. So if you hear these tips and you're like, girl, that doesn't feel right for me, this is a new moon to follow what feels right for you. To use discernment around what is right for my path and what is not, because only you can decide that for you. But I just share this just in case you just want some ideas. You're feeling super connected. One being is, with this being a fiery new moon, of course, spending time with fire would be very impactful. Perhaps even charging your intentions by spending time in the sunshine. This new moon does exact at like 2:38 a.m. So, you know, the sun won't be out where I live personally, but the new moon window will be active for 3 days. So thinking about what it is that you want to call in, what it would look like to embody the role of your most authentic self, and then allowing the sunshine to charge you. And like I said, this new moon has a lot to do with shadow work, because Lilith is like the things that we push into the shadows, the things that are unexpressed, like our desires that feel so raw and so intense, and the part of us that is untamable, the part of our desires that are unquenchable, that we could fear its power, and that's why we push it into the shadows. So I would really recommend during this new moon, write a list of your shadow self. Do shadow work, face yourself. Face yourself, see your light, but also see your shadows. Write the aspects of you that you feel ashamed of, or the parts of your desires that you feel ashamed of. Things that you feel like you shouldn't want. Things that you feel like you shouldn't desire. Oh, I shouldn't desire that much money. I'm from a very modest upbringing, or that would be materialistic, or what have you. Or, oh, I shouldn't want to live this independent life and not have to get married. Like, it feels like that would be very selfish. Or whatever it is that you want that you feel like you shouldn't want. Your desires are trying to tell you something. And so with this journal prompt, I would really get to, what is it that I want? If these expectations that were put on me were not a thing, what would I want? Outside of what's expected of me, what do I want? And sitting with that, and even intending around that. And this new moon is powerful for tapping into your roar, like I said, for defying convention of even ways that you've typically operated, ways that you have typically been known, like the energy of Leo has to do with how it is that we shine out. And maybe there's aspects of your identity around how you've been known. Oh, Margaret won't mind, she'll pick up this extra task, or what have you. Like with this square to Uranus, what would it look like for you to hold your ground, for you to stand in your power? And it's also around not being fearful of judgment of you standing in power. And listen, I'm doing this work too, and I know it's super uncomfortable. Like oftentimes, if there's an uncomfortable situation or something has, you know, hurt my feelings or crossed a boundary with me, like oftentimes I will sort of just detach or retract myself because I don't want to deal with conflict. And it's not that this new moon has to deal with conflict necessarily. That would be a very Mars themed lunation, but it is around being able to stand your ground and maybe disrupting a role if you've been expected to accommodate and to go with the flow. Well, like with this new moon on Lilith, it's just embracing, I don't care if you think I'm bossy. I don't care if it'd be more convenient to bring it back to the original lore of Lilith. I don't care if it's easier if I marry Adam, right? That's not for me. This isn't for me. And so when it comes to this new moon, it would be very powerful to see yourself standing your ground, asserting your boundaries, what that would look like to disrupt the role of what other people expect from you. And with this new moon, it would be very powerful to create, because Leo is a very creative sign. So whether it's like creating a collage of what it would look like to live your most authentic, uninhibited life, maybe it would be making a song that's very weird. It's a Uranian new moons. Maybe make the art that you would want to make if it didn't have to fit into a mold of what the industry expects from you. Art can be very, very powerful for baking in a particular moment, for baking in a particular manifestation, especially if you charge it with the intention of what you want to rebel against with this new moon, where it is that you want to express yourself with this new moon. And I would really recommend during this Leo new moon, do what makes you happy, especially if society has told you that it's weird, okay? Do what it is that you want. Like when we talk about Leo, we can pull in inner child themes, certainly, and think about what it was that you liked to do when you were younger. Like that can be a rebellion within itself. It's honoring your inner child before who you were told who to be. And if there were certain activities that you liked, reclaiming them. Like if you really liked collaging and your parents threw away your collages, or you liked to pogo stick and your next door neighbor friends laughed at you for pogo sticking, reclaim it. Now you're older. Now you're old enough to protect your inner child away from the shame and judgment that other people are trying to cast their way, and be like, no, it's safe for you to be. It's safe for you to shine. And that leads me to another possible way that you can use this new moon ritual, is that for some of you, this is a new moon about feeling safe to shine. With this new moon conjoining Lilith, there can be a fear of judgment. More eyeballs on you means more criticism. And oftentimes when it comes to people pleasing, we can want to be everything to everybody. And it's like the larger the audience gets, more somebody in the audience is gonna be like, I don't like that, right? And if you're in the space around feeling like you have to play all these different roles, you'll divvy up your energy trying to be everything to everybody and lose touch with your own authentic self. And this new moon is really going deep, because oftentimes when it comes to fears of visibility, because sun illuminates, right? It brings light. And oftentimes we can keep ourselves in the shadows, not wanting to be visible because we don't want judgment. We don't want to upset people when it comes to our truth. We don't want it to be controversial. We don't want people to not like what it is that we are doing or what it is that we're putting out there. So I feel for some of you with this new moon, it's really around creating what it is that you want to create, releasing any fears of visibility, welcoming it. I was having this conversation with a client around, I was like, you need to celebrate. When you get your first hate comment, I want you to celebrate. Because firstly, you're not for everyone. Secondly, haters are a marker of success, right? So if you get a hate comment you want to hide, like that can be a signal around you need to do some work around it's safe for me to shine, right? It's safe for me to be visible. Because that's you wanting to protect yourself against criticism, against judgment, right? Rather than understanding when you are playing any sort of role, you're gonna get some criticism, even if it's the one of your authentic self. But the thing is, playing the role of your authentic self is the only one where that criticism sort of rolls off like Teflon because it can't affect you, because you're embodied in who it is that you are. You know who it is that you are. So those things don't get to you as much. And I was saying, celebrate when you get your first hate comment, because for a lot of us, our work is meant to be polarizing. It's not meant to be understood for everybody. You are not for everybody. And so if you've been afraid to show up, if you've been afraid to shine, if you've been afraid to be visible, this new moon is about anchoring in, it is safe for me to have eyeballs on me. It is safe for me to shine. The right people will understand. And so for some individuals, if you've been wanting success, but you're fearful, you're like, I want to be, Forbes 30 under 30, but I won't even get a headshot for my business website because I don't like how I look. I'm scared people are going to judge me. Or like maybe for you, you're like, I want to be a musician, but I don't want to put my music out there because what if, somebody from my past listens to the lyrics and parts of myself are exposed, right? Like we can be blocking our own blessings when we are scared, when we do have fears around being seen, around fears of visibility. And this is a new moon around embracing. There's going to be some controversy sometimes. There's going to be people who don't like my song. There's going to be people from my past who listen to my lyrics and don't agree with them. There's going to be people who live hate comments on my TikTok or what have you. Regardless, I shine, right? There are so many times that we go outside and we're like, it's so hot today. The sun is too bright. It's too much. The sun still rises regardless, because that's who it is. That's the role that it's playing. Play your role. And so when it comes to these spheres of visibility, this is a beautiful new moon to work with it around. It is safe for me to be visible, and I don't need validation all of the time. Because of course, when it comes to Venus retrograde, we've been talking a lot about self-worth and confidence, and that needs to be anchored from within. Because when we are dependent of it out here, that's when we need to play all of these roles, because we feed off the applause. We're like, if I play the role of my authentic self and people don't vibe with it, people don't get it, that will feel like not being alive to me, because I sustain myself off people telling me, tell me I'm good enough, tell me I'm good enough. That goes away when you can just anchor and sit in your truth. The truth of your talents and your abilities, as well as the truth of your shadow side. Because that's why hate comments don't bother you when you're embodying your authentic self. Is it's like you're self-aware. You're aware of those facets. You can either use it as constructive criticism, or you could just be like, whatever. Sometimes we do trigger people, especially when we're playing the role of what it is that we want to do outside of what other people want us to do. So celebrate when you get haters, literally. Like, that's why Lilith is so powerful, because she does not care. She does not care what people have to say for her. She's like, these are my desires. It has nothing to do with you. This is not your play. It is not your play. Celebrate when somebody from your hometown is like, oh, I wouldn't do that when you're launching a business. You wouldn't do that, or you couldn't do that. Or that's not part of your birth chart. That's not part of your chart. That's not part of your heart. That's not your role. Celebrate when you get that first comment on your TikTok around how your voice is annoying, because regardless, you are still talking. They took time out of their precious day to give you some energy. Just take the energy, transmute it into a source of power, and just carry on. Do not let it affect you. And in fact, celebrate it, because when you are living in your design, when you're living in your power, you're gonna ruffle some feathers. You are not here to be nice and polite and as accommodating as possible. You are here to live in your truth. And the thing is, living in your truth will sometimes upset people. It will get some people who don't totally understand the vision. That's okay. Celebrate when you're able to hold your own at a family reunion, when your aunt is asking you when you're gonna have babies and get married, and you can hold your ground and just say, that's not for me. That's not for me. Because it's powerful to stay within your authentic self, even when the world is pushing you against. You need to think what I think. You need to play the role that I have. You need to follow what I think is normal. Celebrate when those things happen. Celebrate this diversion from the typical way of doing things, because that's where your authentic path lies. So let's go ahead and break down what this Leo new moon is bringing for your chart. So based on where you have 23 degrees Leo within your birth chart, this will signal the unique opportunity you have during this new moon in Leo. So there are a couple ways to do this. So the first being, if you are newer to astrology, or you utilize whole sign house system, look below within the description, find your ascendant, also known as rising sign. You can find this via any sort of chart calculator, like using astro.com online or Nui app. And then take the rising, ascendant, it'll be sometimes said ASC sign. Take that, look below and advance to that timestamp. If you utilize Placidus house system, I do as well. It's a little bit more complicated to find out, but I'll walk you through it with a visual guide. So what you'll do is you go to astro.com. After inputting your birth information, you will find the Leo sector of your chart. I'm circling it. It is red on astro.com. It looks like this. So from here, we want to find 23 degrees Leo. So find where Leo begins. It's where Cancer, the blue symbol that looks like this, I'm circling it, ends. This is 0 degrees Leo. This is where it all starts. These little grid marks indicate increments of 5. So we want to go 5, 10, 15, 20. This new moon lands at 23 degrees Leo. That is referring to a sector of the sky. So in between that 20 degree grid mark and the next grid mark is 25, about halfway there, if we follow towards the inner ring, we see within that piece of pizza, there will be a little number. So we see within this example on screen that 23 degrees Leo lands within the first house. So from there, I would go to the first house reading. If you're not sure, you're like Haley Comet, it might be in the first house, it might be in the second house. If you cannot tell visually, go towards the top and hit PDF additional tables. From here, look towards the right hand side and look where you have that Leo symbol starting a house. So we see here that the second house begins at 24 degrees Leo. If this new moon lands at 23 degrees Leo, then we have certainty that it is within the first house. So now that we know the house that it lands in for you and for your chart, let's go ahead into our house by house, sign by sign analysis. So if you are a Leo ascendant or you have 23 degrees Leo landing within the first house of your astrological natal chart, this Leo new moon, August 2023 reading is for you. So where you are being asked to embody your most rebellious, authentic truth is around yourself, your identity, how it is that you are seen. This is a very personal new start for you. And when it comes to new moons landing in the first house, it's not cut and dry that this will necessarily just land in one particular arena of life. You are just being asked to embody your desires as a whole, especially the desires that don't exactly feel like they fit in with what is expected of you or from you. You most likely, if you have this here, you most likely have Uranus in the 10th house. So maybe what it is that you want for career is a little inconvenient. Maybe you're a little passionate about it and people are telling you you're too much, you've got to simmer down or what have you. Like, again, when it comes to Leo, really ask, like, am I too much or are they not enough? Like, Leo is about the heart space, it's about our passion, it's what lights us up. And oftentimes when it comes to society, we're told that's too much, that's unrealistic or what have you. And this new moon is about reclaiming your desires, even if they're weird, even if they do not fit into a mold, even if you want to create change within an industry or you want to make a career change that other people don't understand. It also is an energetic around how it is that you show up in the world, how it is that you dress, the way that you do your hair, the way that you navigate this world within the first house. You know, Venus is retrograde right now in the first house, most likely. And so I wouldn't say do something drastic, like dye your hair pink or what have you, but it is very aligned to go back to a style that you used to like. Or maybe like when you were younger, like your inner child, you used to really, really like dressing a particular way and you almost had your authentic style kind of like beat out of you by this world, by people who told you it was weird and made you feel like you had to conform. This is a really aligned time to go back to those styles of what makes you feel the most you. Because when your outer vessel is adorned and dressed in a way that feels in alignment with your soul, that's where true confidence lies. And when it comes to this new moon, you have had Venus retrograde, most likely within the first house, and it's been making you question, what is it that I want within relationships? What is it that I value within this world? What is it that I value about myself? And with this new moon, I want you to embolden and embody your desires fully. Even if they're considered weird, even if people tell you you're unrealistic to want what it is that you want or to hold yourself to the esteem that you hold yourself. Celebrate, like I was saying in my Leo new moon portion, celebrate when you get your first hate comment. Celebrate when somebody tells you that your standards are too high. Celebrate when somebody tells you that your standards are too high, because that means that you are holding yourself in the esteem that you deserve. Leo is the archetype of royalty, like the king or the queen that you are. Right? And the only people that will tell you to lower your standards is the ones who want you to lower them so that they can be on your level. Okay? The right people will be motivated to meet your standards and more, right? You will not have to negotiate your standards for the people who are within your world. When it comes to confidence, people can tell you you're a prima donna, they can tell you that you are high maintenance or what have you, but that's again a form of trying to put you into a box around it's wrong to want what it is that you want. Your desires are unrealistic. To who? To who? Because with Venus retrograde, it should have been prompting the soul searching around what is it that I want within love? What is it that I want within money? What is it that I want within my identity, within my aesthetic, around the way that I take care of myself? And this new moon is a way to be like, no, I've reviewed my romantic past. I've seen what I've put up with. No more. It stops here. And I don't care if people that I date say that I'm high maintenance. I don't care if they think that I'm a prima donna. No more. I love myself too much to allow that. And I'm fine with being the bad guy. Like there's so much embodied in this new moon around not fearing being the bad guy any longer. Because the thing about being the nice person is that you want to please people. And that means just to give a romantic example, because this new moon does conjoin Venus. That means going along with things that are below the standard of how you would want to be treated, right? Because you want to make them happy. You're not going into dates questioning, is this the right person? You're questioning, do they like me? Do they like me? Right? And with this new moon conjoining Lilith, be fine with your desires. Be authentic with your desires and what it is that you want. Center yourself within your world, whether that shows up within relationships or what have you, because playing the role around, gotta make them like me, gotta be the nice person, like that's not gonna get you what you want. If you're with somebody who's like, no, that's unrealistic to expect, to give an example of relationships, dinner on a first date, or to expect me to hold out all the other doors, well then it's unrealistic for you to expect a second date. Like, do not let this world talk you out of your desires, of what it is that you want for yourself, of who it is that you are. Because the world will try, oh, you want too much. That's because they want you to lower your standards so that you will settle. And you are not here to settle. Do not settle in any arena of your life, especially when it relates to yourself, the person that you want to be, with this landing within the first house. If the Leo new moon, August 16, 2023, lands within the second house of your astrological natal chart, this reading is for you. And the emphasis for you is around finances and self-worth. And I want you to know that oftentimes when it comes to your desires, they are not random. Like, desires come into your mind and into your awareness if in some way you have the capacity to fulfill them. So I don't want you to feel guilty for wanting the things that you want, especially financially, because oftentimes we can feel guilty, like, who am I to desire all these fancy things when there's lots of people who have to go without? But the thing is, depriving yourself of things isn't magically allowing those resources to be allocated to other people. It's just putting yourself into an energy of guilt around wanting what it is that you want. Maybe even having a complicated relationship with money and finances, feeling like it's evil or like it's the root of all evil. And don't get me wrong, within some traditions, Lilith was a very evil influence, okay? But within the essence of astrology, it's really around what it is that we want and emboldening that, even if it doesn't fit in with what other people want for us. So maybe for some of you, you are really planting seeds during this time to start to want to make money in your own way, because Lilith is associated with a very fiercely independent archetype. So maybe you're like, you know what? I was told that this 9-to-5 path was for me, but I'm ready to go a path of somebody who is self-employed or somebody who makes a living off my creativity or what have you, these non-traditional paths that we often aren't educated about. But again, your heart will lead the way if that is a path for you. And with the conjunction of Lilith, that's like, okay, I see society trying to fit me into a box and thinking that this is the only way I can get money, but I desire to make money via my own way, via my own talents, my own creativity, my own heart space, my own leadership, Leo themes. And also when it comes to this new moon, it's also around being bold around your desire for money. And you know, money makes a lot of us squeamish, especially within the spiritual community. And when it comes to resources, oftentimes we can feel guilty if we want a lot of it, if we want to be, you know, filthy rich or what have you, because we see a lot of evil, really wealthy people in the world. So we can correlate like, okay, money must make you evil, but let me tell you something. Money is an amplifier, and a way that you can work through those money blocks, if you do have these subconscious beliefs that like money will make you evil or rich people are mean or what have you, is contemplating all the good that you can do with having more money, like the organizations that you want to donate to monthly, and being able to do random acts of kindness. It's like being able to pay someone's rent or something without even sweating it, right? Like we can do a lot of good with money and resources. It's just energy. And so really get down around where you're ashamed around money, okay? Around where you're ashamed around money, or even for some of you, it might be like you have a service, maybe it's something heart-centered or something of the nature, and you experience guilt around asking, hi, please pay me, like this invoice is late, or even like feeling awkward when you get paid for work that you do, because there's this weird energy around money. Like the energy of Lilith, some of you literally, with Venus most likely retrograde here, you need to circle back and say, no, you need to pay me my money. I'm just gonna tell a quick anecdote. A weird thing about brand deals that I didn't know before I started doing them, but it's actually very common within the industry, is that they very much act like paying you is optional. Like they act like they've done you this huge favor by paying you, and it's taken so much mental labor to like circle back, like, hi, still haven't received, hi, still, and it's like so frustrating to have that on my to-do list and be like, we had a contract, like why are you trying to ghost me for work rendered? And so for a lot of you might need to fiercely state your boundaries around, you need to pay me for an invoice that's out, or maybe for some of you around, we need to review my salary. It is not meeting my expectations for this role, or my job description, my salary are not aligned. Like some of you need to get a little bit more fiercer around money and around claiming what is owed to you. I know it tends to be something that we shrink up and get awkward around, but with the energy of Lilith, it's like, no, I'm not gonna be accommodating, be like, whenever you can pay me. It's like, no, we had an agreement. You need to pay me. I want to highlight, because I was in a sticky situation as I highlighted around a brand that would not pay me. And I have an amazing mentor who's always so helpful with language. And she helped me with language and composing an email where we basically said, any update on this invoice, or shall I advance this to the next step of collections? Which I loved, right? So whether it's somebody who owes you money, maybe you lent money to a friend or something of that nature, sometimes you need to stand your ground. Sometimes you do need to assert yourself. Of course, you could do so kindly, but do not back yourself down into a corner. Just like, whenever you can, get what's owed to you, get what's fair. And know that you're worthy of it, because second house also brings in themes of self-worth. Because you may have desires of fame, you may have desires of wealth, you may have desires of altruism on a gigantic scale. And part of you can have to wrestle with feelings around, why me? Like, I'm just a normal person. Like, why would I want these sort of things? Why not you? You need to anchor in that you are worthy of these desires. Stop having shame for them. If you get embarrassed when you tell people, yeah, I want to be a multimillionaire, or I want to have 1 million streams, a platinum record, or I want to be able to stop world hunger. Like, again, these gigantic goals, these gigantic desires that you have, you could be like, could I possibly be worthy of that? Could I possibly be valuable enough to create that sort of impact, or to create that much success, or what have you? You are. Do not allow that shame or that guilt around, why me? Why not you? Okay? Why not you? Why did these desires enter your brain? And how can you flip the script around, no longer allowing your shame to run the show? And how can you flip the script around, not settling? Like, when we get down to the essence of Lilith, she did not settle. She did not settle. I mean, granted, in some traditions, very dark path, very dark archetype. But the essence of Lilith is that she was basically like, I'm not gonna settle for a life that does not belong to me. I wanna be equals. And if Adam isn't gonna let me be equal, if the Garden of Eden isn't gonna allow me to be equal, I'm out. This is not the path for me. This is not the story for me. So for some of you, maybe you're settling for something that you know that you do not deserve, whether it's to do with financial means or elsewhere within your life. Do not settle. Like with the energy of Lilith, it's being fine around being called a little bossy, being called a princess, being called a prima donna. Do not settle for any aspect of your life. This world wants you to settle. This world wants you to fit into this box and take what is rolled out to you and don't complain and keep a smile on. No, you need to raise a little hell sometimes. You need to fiercely state what you expect as your salary. You need to build towards the desires of what it is that you want, even if people tell you it's unrealistic. Okay, do not settle. Hold yourself in the esteem that you deserve to. If the Leo new moon, August 16th, lands within the 3rd house of your astrological natal chart, this reading is for you. You may potentially be a Gemini rising. You potentially may not be a Gemini rising. You may just have 23 degrees Leo within your 3rd house. Either way though, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you this new moon is really around unlocking your inner roar. Some of you are anchoring into a more powerful way to communicate yourself. And this could show up within a leadership essence. Some of you are being asked to really speak your truth and do so loudly and confidently and firmly. If you are someone, when you start meetings, you're just like, okay, I think we're talking about this. Or if you let people interrupt you, like this is a new moon to embolden taking charge of meetings. This is the agenda. This is what we're talking about. Taking charge of language and the little ways that you could signal insecurity, starting sentences with, I think this would be a good idea, or I just was wondering. Stand firmly, speak loudly, let them hear you roar. If someone interrupts you in the board meeting, thank you, Richard, I was not done speaking yet. Or if you're somebody, when you're emailing, you feel like everything needs to be exclamation points and happy and bubbly, when there are things that you need to state, like you need to speak your truth. The world does not know your boundaries, does not know who you are. You tell people who you are. You tell people your boundaries. You tell what it is that you will tolerate and what it is that you will not. I am someone who's very conflict averse. And like I said, this isn't a new moon necessarily about conflict necessarily, but for you with this in third house, it really is around speaking your expectations and speaking who it is that you are and speaking what it is that you want, even if there is some controversy, as this new moon is linked with Lilith and squaring Uranus. It's easier to not speak up. It's easier to tolerate the disrespect, but this is a new moon about a new chapter around, no, that is not okay with me. No, this behavior will not do, what have you, wherever it is that you're feeling this. It also has to do with branding, who it is that we are. This is a house that has to do with social media, has to do with marketing and communication, and you are the most magnetic when you are speaking about what is on your heart. For some of you, there could be visibility of being seen online, and this is a new moon to essentially get comfortable with haters. There's gonna be haters. I'm telling you right now, there's gonna be trolls. If you show up online, new levels of visibility, new devils. Isn't that timely with Lilith energy? Around, you cannot embody all of what it is that you are with the creativity that you express and the mind that you have, my gosh, without ruffling some feathers, without attracting some haters or dealing with some adverse reactions of having more visibility online or elsewhere. With this energy in your third house, it's really around speaking what's important to you. This could be a powerful boundary check as it relates to your followers, or this could be a really powerful time to really contemplate if the niche that you're in, your heart is truly in. This can be a new start for some of you. Maybe learning a new skill, even if other people are like, oh, Margaret, you wouldn't be able to code. Like, I think that's beyond you. It's like, no, this is where my interest is. This is where my mind is, and I'm going to embolden this path. This can be a new start as it relates to social media. Maybe people have been like, who's going to watch you on social media? You'll see. People who get it, who are on the wavelength. Maybe you're not, that's fine. But it's not going to stop me from following my passions and speaking about what it is that I want, studying about what it is that I want, and speaking to the audiences that I want to in my own language. And so this new moon, whether it is learning a new skill, whether it is having a pivot within your social media strategy or showing up to be on social media, maybe some of you, there is some desires that you are making peace with around wanting that fancy car. Third house has to do with automobiles. I would not purchase it until Venus is direct because you most likely have it within the third house. But this is around emboldening, hey, when I'm traveling around, I want to do so nicely. Or maybe for some of you, you're emboldening, hey, I want a lifestyle where I can go on short-term journeys, where I can be here, there, and everywhere, right? And this new moon is about embracing the desires of what it is that you want to feed your mind, on what it is that you want to communicate, on the stimuli you want to be around. Some of you could want to stand up to a neighbor, stand up to an extended family member, and not feel guilty about that desire to express, this is who I am, this is what I expect, and this is the change that we are anchoring in with this new moon. If the Leo new moon lands within the fourth house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Taurus rising, or you just have 23 degrees Leo located within the fourth house of your natal chart. Either way, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you as it relates to this new moon is really around being able to fiercely protect the lion's den. Really protect your home environment. Some of you may need to really really step into your fierceness around asserting boundaries as it relates to roommates, perhaps some of you as it relates to family members, firmly and fiercely advocating for what it is that you will tolerate, and furthermore, who it is that you are. And this will likely feel more resonant if you are experiencing this descent as it relates to family members, is when it comes to the energy of Leo new moon, it's very much that common trope in movies where it's like, that's your dream, dad, like this is my dream. Like, you know, the trope in movies when the dad wants the son to be a hockey star, but the son wants to be a ballerina. Like, that's the energy of this new moon, especially when we apply the layer that this new moon is squaring Uranus, which is most likely in the first house, where it's just like your family's desires for what they want for your life, which hopefully they do have good intentions for you. Regardless, though, they do not have your heart, they do not have your chart, they don't understand how much this passion lights you up, and they may not understand why it is that you are designing your life as such. And they don't have to, but it can create tension when there are certain desires of the path that it was expected that you follow. The traditions that you were expected to uphold are not resonant for you. It's like your caretaker played hockey and their caretakers played hockey, but that doesn't mean that you need to play hockey. Because sometimes when we talk about Leo themes, it does have to do with pride and ego, right? And sometimes, you know, when it comes to family, they can get a certain ego attachment around, yeah, our son plays hockey, our daughter plays hockey, just like everybody else in the family. But again, when it comes to ego, you don't want to live an entire life trying to make people proud, especially your family. And this can be so challenging because a lot of times we so want their validation, but the thing is, it never feels to be enough. If it's not authentically us, it never feels to be enough. You might get congratulations because like, good job, you won the hockey championship, but you'll just be hungry again for more validation. Tell me I'm good enough, tell me I'm good enough. And almost like performing in order to feel like you deserve their affection or attention or what have you. And with this new moon, you could just be like, no, that's not what I want for my life. You might want me to be a mom, that's not for me. You might want me to get into real estate like everybody else, that's not for me. And this life is for me. Because oftentimes when we talk about family, it's like, just because somebody birthed you or gave birth to people who birthed you doesn't mean that they get domain over the entirety of your life. Ultimately, it is your destiny. And so with this energy of the new moon landing here, you could be taking the reins around releasing yourself and the expectations of family members, or rather releasing your attachment, your ego attachment, your confidence attachment around needing their validation, around understanding when you're living in your truth, when you're living a life that is authentically yours, you stop craving it as much, honestly, and you also are free to create a life around what lights you up. Maybe they'll understand, maybe they won't. Maybe for some of you, it's rebelling for the family members who couldn't, right? Like feeling free to claim your own path because you think of the people who came before you and the sacrifices that they made, and that they would want you to live a life that you were happy with. They would want you to follow your passions and to live your most, independent, free life. I'm pulling from themes of Lilith. Like for me, I was very close with my grandma. We shared a moon sign and we would always talk every Wednesday. She has passed away now. But I just always think about how everybody in my family who came before me, especially the women, they never got to live alone. They got married right away, and their life was around taking care of their husbands and then taking care of children. And that was their life. That was their 20s. And I remember in our conversations, she was always so proud of me for being the first woman in my family line to live by themselves, to be the first woman within our family line to work for herself, to be the first woman within our family line to not get married in her 20s. And maybe your story is different, but when you free yourself from the limitations of society, you also in a certain way do heal your family line. Like I remember my grandma just telling me how proud she was, which felt counterintuitive because there's all sorts of pressure elsewhere to fall into that line. But she was like, wow, you did it. This is why we made the sacrifices that we did, is that so one day someone in our family would get the choice to decide. Because I hope you don't misunderstand what I was saying at the beginning. It's your choice to decide. It's basically saying there's not one path. There's not one path to follow. Some people, they want to have a family and get married right away. That's what success is. And for others, success is coming back to a quiet house and being able to sleep in till 10:30 and play Zelda or whatever. And so when it comes to this new moon, it's really asking, what's going to make me happy outside of what other people expect from me? What would it look like to embody my desires, to get closer to my own vision of happiness? Because fourth house does have to do with these themes. And there is fierceness around the lion's den, okay, which can have to do with home, needing to assert boundaries with roommates, or even wanting to move. And people trying to tell you like, oh, why do you want to move? Don't you want to be close to us? Or you're not going to like it there. But again, where are you feeling guided at this moment? Where is your heart taking you? I wouldn't recommend moving until after Venus is direct, because a lot of you are Taurus rising, so you are ruled by Venus, and it's most likely retrograde here, so there could be snafus, but hopefully Venus retrograde has showed you what it is that you value within a home environment, and with this new moon planting the seeds around how you can find what it is that you're craving within a physical home, within a city that you reside in, a town that you reside in, as well as the feelings, the home of your own soul. If the Taurus new moon lands within the 5th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be an Aries ascendant, or you just have 23 degrees Leo located within the 5th house. Either way, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you this Leo new moon is to create your own authentic art, the kind of art that genuinely comes from the heart space, the kind of art that is unfiltered, that is uninhibited, that is the authentic song of your soul. Again, your medium might not be music, but oftentimes when it comes to art, we can feel a tendency to want to play it safe. And this is the new moon to stop playing it safe. Like with the new moon conjoining Lilith, it's like, let my art be wild and a little dangerous and a little reckless. Like art isn't telling people how to live. Just because you write about these wild experiences, you make songs about them, or you write a play about them, isn't saying that you need everyone to have that experience or share that opinion. It's meant to instill, it's meant to disrupt, it's meant to get people thinking. Like with the square to Uranus, it takes people who are willing to be weird and to push boundaries for there to be any genuine advancement as it relates to creativity and as it relates to self-expression. So this is a new moon to either instill this rebellious nature in relation to your art, or it can be a call to really get closer to your inner child and the parts of yourself that you felt like you've had to hide or push down in order to gain acceptance, and reclaiming the parts of your inner child that you have felt like you've had to push down, even to a micro level, like being told on the playground that you were too bossy, getting told that it was weird to enjoy coding as much as you did. Again, when it comes to your inner child, you could have internalized those things and taken these things that were so light and made you so happy and put them into a box around, okay, for me to get the validation that I crave, this is not a safe part of myself to share. And this is a new moon about reclaiming those aspects of your inner child where you were told you talk too much just because you were talking about something that you were passionate about, where you were told your art's really sloppy just because you were excited and liked seeing all the colors. Like again, those experiences could have marked you and made you afraid to express the essential parts of who it was that you were. And this new moon is about reclaiming that. And as it relates to dating and romance, you will most likely have Venus retrograde here. So I'm not saying you have to like start dating or anything of that nature. But what I am saying with this new moon is it is a lot in time to plant the seeds around your desires. 5th house has to do with physical intimacy and things of that nature, not feeling bad about them. Not feeling bad about what it is that you want, about who it is that you want. Like in some traditions, Lilith is a very sensual archetype, we'll say. And for some of you, you could be pushing that down just because of shame, because of guilt, right? Around, oh my gosh, why do I want this so badly, or want what it is that I want, or who it is that I want so badly that has made you internalize a lot of guilt. And this is a new moon to essentially plant the seeds around allowing yourself to just see it as an expression of pleasure, as an expression of love, as an expression from the heart space, and no longer associate guilt wherever it came from, whether it was religious themes or people telling you you were too this or not enough this or what have you. It's getting closer to your authentic way of expressing yourself in that way and not allowing shame or guilt to come into the equation. Because when it comes to the chakra system, so that's associated with the sacral chakra, and that locks up with shame or guilt. It's like the chakra that has to do with pleasure, it has to do with flow, like letting it flow, right? And it locks up with shame or guilt around, do I want it too bad? Am I doing okay? Like, it's just about allowing yourself to flow and surrender to it and not feeling like it's wrong to want what it is that you want in the way that you want it, who it is that you want. Again, when we have guilt around, oh my gosh, why am I, attracted to this gender? Why do I want this particular thing? Again, it can put us in that shame or guilt where we just want to deny or see that part of us as dirty or bad or what have you. And this is a new moon to get to the root of that, as well as plant the seeds around a really authentic expression in that arena. And maybe even a weird one with a square to Uranus. Okay, I'll be real. And so when it comes to this as well, it's also around having more fun, because this too can be an act of rebellion. It's just living a life in which you are having fun, in which you are taking things lightly, in which you're now allowing your inner light of what lights you up to get dimmed. That's a hard feat in this world, how it's set up. And that could be an act of rebellion around, I see this world trying to make me jaded and get super serious, and I refuse. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to create weird art just for the sake of being alive. I'm going to make collages and dance and write poetry just as a celebration of my own experience, and to keep that spark within me around just being excited to be here can be a part of this new moon, as well as feeling safe to communicate your own branding, your own creativity. This does pull in themes of children, so either inner child themes, and maybe you related when I was sharing the intro around needing to get to the root of your desires as it relates to children, whether you want them or whether you do not, and allowing your desires to be heard, felt, and received by those that you date. With this being the 5th house, it does have to do with dating and romance, and this is around not having shame around wanting what it is that you want, because you've had Venus retrograde here, so you've been really contemplating, who is it that I want to date? And maybe for some of you, this is a new start around, no, I'm no longer going to allow people to get super, possessive and jealous just on the 3rd date. Like, I'm going to assert my boundaries that that's not okay, or I'm going to be forthright with my desires. Hey, I want to get married and have children. Like, you need to know that. It's not... It really, I would say this new moon is kind of like the end of good girl programming, but I would also say it's the end of cool girl programming. And I just say that because it's a common trope if you're a masculine. I'm not saying this isn't for you, but again, it's like those energies around, let's go with the flow, it's fine. Like Lilith is like, no, this is what I want. This is what I want. It's taking charge of your own pleasure. It's taking charge of your own dating world around what it is that you want, what it is that you will tolerate, right? It's not going with the flow, and it's not worrying about people's reaction to that, because people will have a problem with it, but those are not people you need to be dating, right? Like, I think it's so silly when we feel like we have to be the cool girl or whatever, just like go with the flow and think we're going to get what we want. You have to assert what it is that you want, especially as it relates to dating, and keep your standards high, okay? The only people who want you to lower your standards are those who want you to lower them in order to be with them, okay? So keep your standards high, know what it is that you want, and don't experience any shame or guilt around it. If the Leo new moon lands within the 6th house of your astrological natal chart, that makes this reading for you. You may potentially be a Pisces ascendant, or you may just have 23 degrees Leo located within the 6th house of your natal chart. Either way, this message is for you. And for you, it's really taking charge of your everyday. Like, maybe there are work projects that are on your desk that you're like, this is not part of my job description. And this energy of Lilith is getting comfortable around disrupting what is expected of you. Of course, be professional, be courteous, but it is this energy around, this is not part of my job description, around, I've been accommodating for too long, I've been trying to take this off your plate, but no longer. Because a lot of you have had Venus retrograde within your 6th house, which could have been creating delays within work and just extra problems and things of that nature. And you're really having to streamline your everyday. And so if there's like a coworker where you've been taking on their tasks and doing yours as well and staying late and being overly accommodating, Lilith is about standing your ground and asserting yourself. And for some of you, especially with Leo, this has to do with leadership. So maybe for some of you, you want to step up as a leader and a manager, but you're just like buried with busy work. With this energy of Lilith, it's just understanding I cannot go with the flow and also arise to the leader that I want to be. Some of you need to advocate for a creative project, whether this is in the workplace, something that you want to lead, that you want to guide, or a way that you want to express yourself. Or this could be if you work for yourself, like a project that you want to nurture. Again, I would wait until Venus is direct, and honestly Mercury is direct, before launching it. But this new moon would be an opportunity to be like, hey, remember when I wanted to do this? Because the gift of retrograde, it's not great for brand new things, but it's brilliant for going back and dialing in things from the past. And so as it relates to this new moon, it can be a brilliant opportunity to plant the seeds around, I used to so want to do this particular proposal or this sort of creative project with my business. Let me put some energy around it because it gets my heart excited. Like again, your heart guides the way with this Leo new moon, and it's super supportive there. And when it comes to Lilith, it might be something that was shut down by a coworker who didn't understand the vision, or maybe it's not done within your industry. There's something controversial about this new moon, but it's understanding these desires that you have. It is your responsibility to fulfill them. And sometimes that means being a little fierce, getting people a little uncomfortable, right? Like when we think about people who succeed in really tough industries, it's the people who are a little annoying. Like you've heard the tropes, right? It's like the people who will show up at Capitol Records every single day and like hand a demo CD, or like the people, I just heard a story the other day. This is so random, but I guess when Jason Derulo was trying to get famous, he would go to all of the radio stations and try to befriend all of the people who worked at the radio station to try to get them to play his songs. And like, I feel like his song is like quintessential radio music. Like, I'm not saying being annoying, right? I'm not saying harass anybody. But what I am saying is sometimes you have to advocate for yourself. You have to advocate for your talent. You have to be like, hey, look at me. I've got what it takes. Some of you need to stand up for yourself as it relates to a medical situation, okay? You need to stand up for yourself around, no, this bill was filed incorrectly, right? Venus retrograde can create slowdowns there. You could have to advocate around, no, I need these particular tests. I know you think I'm being dramatic, but this is what's necessary. Like sometimes you do need to advocate and you do need to assert yourself as it relates to medical matters, as well as sixth house is small animals. So maybe on behalf of a small animal within your life around, no, this is not okay. And I do not care if you think I'm being bossy or problematic or what have you. When it comes to important matters, you have to be a little bit bossy and problematic, okay? And so some of you are calling in a new position at this time, and it can be something that disrupts what people think of you or think you're capable of. So be it. You'll show them, okay? And for some of you, you could be planting the seeds as it relates to health or something of that nature, wanting to nurture a new day-to-day, even if people don't understand around why do you need to be vegan, or like why do you need to go to the gym rather than going here. Like again, you have to be your own biggest advocate, and that means questioning normal, right? If you're around people who are eating in a way that you don't want to eat or living a lifestyle that you don't want to live, it's up to you to question normal or question what it is that you're around and nurture these new habits that might be different than those around you. Like the energy of Lilith was all around kind of creating a stir, right? It's so strange because people can have the best intentions for us, but people like predictability. So even if it's a micro way around just changing how it is that you eat, it can make them feel uncomfortable. This isn't a house necessarily about other people, but with this energy of Lilith and Uranus, it's about disrupting the norm, right? Questioning everything, questioning normal, and living in accordance to your authentic truth, regardless of other people's input or feedback. If the Leo new moon lands within the 7th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Aquarius rising, or you may just have 23 degrees Leo located within the 7th house. Either way, this message is for you. And there's a lot of emphasis going on right now around relationships. You have had Venus most likely retrograde within the 7th house. So there's been a lot of processing past relationships. There's been a lot looking inward around what it is that you want within connection. And this new moon is to take that data and put it into action. Plant seeds around your new standards as it relates to relationships, your desires as it relates to relationships, and not feeling guilty for wanting what it is that you want in a partner. So if you're single, this would be energy around taking the data, because oftentimes Venus retrograde can make us dream about exes, run into exes, even hear from exes, right? And it's not about your exes, but it's about reflecting upon those past experiences and how they shone a light around what it is that you want and what it is that you do not want. And with this energy of the new moon on Lilith, it's like, I don't care any longer. Like, I lowered my standards last time and look where that got me. No longer. This is my new normal around what I will call in as it relates to relationships. Because when it comes to Lilith, it's about not feeling bad about our desires. Even if people tell you that it's unrealistic to want what it is that you want, or call you a prima donna, call you a diva, call you a princess, whatever it is, right? I went on a rant on this earlier, but a lot of times people will use that language with you and tell you that your standards are too high if you would have to lower them for them to meet the threshold. So really with Venus retrograde, you're questioning, who is it that I want to give my heart to? What sort of partner? And with the energy of Lilith, it's like not feeling bad or guilty for wanting what it is that you want. And maybe with this energy of Lilith, it's around wanting to live your own fiercely independent lifestyle. Maybe some of you are looking at where your heart is and contemplating, I don't think I'm ready for a relationship right now. Like, I think I just want to be independent. And I know my family is breathing down my neck, wanting me to get married by whatever age, but that isn't what's right for me. That's not where my heart's in. Like, Lilith is all about being fiercely independent. And so maybe it's calling in a relationship that allows you to live within your power, live within your truth, live within your independence. Perhaps some of you are in a relationship with this energy of Lilith. It's asking you, how can you embolden your desires? How can you let your partner know what it is that you want? And the energy of Lilith is about not settling. So being vocal about your desires, about your expectations, and being fierce within it. If there have been certain things that you've let slide within your partnership, this is the time to plant the seeds around, with Venus retrograde, we've been reviewing our relationship, and this is what I need to see for me to feel empowered within this connection. You could be planting seeds around a new partnership that you want to invite into your universe. Some of you could be planting seeds as it relates to a business partnership. Some of you could be asserting yourself as it relates to a business partnership, or some of you, this Venus retrograde story could have been around contract review. And with this energy of Lilith, it really is around stating your boundaries. Maybe someone's pressuring you into a contract that you know within your integrity and within your heart is not for you to sign. Like, this is the energy of around asserting yourself, emboldening yourself, and understand that you have agency over your own experience. Do not let people shrink you or make you feel like you are not powerful, right? Remember your power, stand fiercely within it. And during this new moon, call in individuals who will celebrate your power, who are not intimidated by your wildness, who do not want to tame you. That's a big part of this new moon, is really allowing yourself to be with somebody who sees your fierceness, sees your wildness, sees your independence, and loves you for it. Doesn't try to change who it is that you are, put you into a cage or put you into a mold, who tries to make you be a stay-at-home, just an example, makes you be a stay-at-home, wife when you deeply want to be a lawyer, or doesn't make you spend every night with them, emboldens you to go and hang out with your friends and pursue your outer hobbies. You are a human being and you need to retain your humanness, and that means your ability to question when something does not feel right for you, even when you're in a connection. And that's what this new moon is all about, spotlighting and celebrating as it relates to all sorts of your one-to-one connections. I also want to say, random, but 7th house does have to do with open enemies. And some of you just need to get comfortable with the haters, okay? It's not saying you have to be their best friend, but for some of you, you just need to understand as it relates to dealing with the general public. A lot of you guys are Aquarius risings. You guys are meant to do things differently. You guys are meant to be different. And so celebrating that whenever you are different, you will attract hater energy. Don't give them any time of day, okay? In the 7th house, open enemies is the same as relationships. Like, literally, your haters are your biggest fans, okay? Like, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So if somebody has an intense reaction to you, they're still feeding you energy. And so for some of you with this new moon, it's just like understanding whether you're experiencing adversarial energy at, school or online or wherever you're experiencing it. This is the energy around getting comfortable around, for me to shine within my fullest entirety, it's going to attract some trolls. It's going to attract some haters, but it's not going to dim my shine. If the Leo new moon lands within the 8th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Capricorn ascendant, or you have 23 degrees Leo within the 8th house. Either way, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you is really around merging. And that's what makes this new moon so interesting, is because there's so much about this new moon that is about essentially standing out from a crowd, observing our own shine, following our own glow and our own radiance. But 8th house is how it is that we merge with others. And so the ask here is really around how is it that we can merge, whether it's within business partnerships or within relationships, while still maintaining our independence, while still maintaining our wildness and our agency and our ability to question normal. With this new moon, there can be an energy around wanting to assert yourself as it relates to shared finances. Let's say if you are married and you're not being able to see statements around what is happening for the two of you financially, this energy of Lilith is asking you to exert agency around what it is that you need, what it is that you require. It could be an energy if your spouse's spending is out of control around asserting this is not okay for our future, and like being okay with ruffling some feathers, right? Being proactive as it relates to your shared finances. But this goes beyond even financially how we merge. It can deal with how it is that we merge into intimacy and things of that nature. And Lilith as an archetype is very sensual, shall we say. And so this new moon with Lilith is about not feeling bad about your desires. It's not feeling guilty around them. And it's allowing yourself to create an environment where the people that you share that sort of energy with also feel free to share their innermost desires, their repressed desires that they push into the shadows, that they're fearful to tread deeply within. This is a time to be vocal around what it is that you want within that department. And I am speaking to sensuality, but it can also be just the intimacy within your connection, feeling safe, revealing yourself, like revealing your secrets, allowing your soul to be seen and your desires to be seen, really. And that could be a disruption with the square to Uranus. So outside of that, this also could be around just emboldening your desires overall. Because the energy of 8th house is about death. Lilith is about desires that we push down that maybe aren't so conventional. And with this new moon, it's around not feeling guilt or shame around wanting what it is that you want out of life during the time that you have here. Understanding that you will lie on the final bed that you will if you don't want to regret. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I express this side of myself? Why didn't I pursue this or express this? And again, I'm not being morbid here, but with this new moon, it could be making you question, why am I navigating through life being so fearful of myself? Because oftentimes, it brings me to that Marianne Williamson quote. We think that we are fearful of our deficiencies, but oftentimes we're fearful of our greatness. Like, who would you be if you owned your greatness and if you were willing to go through the fire to transform yourself over and over and over again in order to live a life in accordance to your greatest desires? Like an 8th houser that I love is Lana Del Rey, and in the Ride music video, she basically says, like, are you in touch with your wildest desires? Have you created a life where you have the capacity to fulfill them? I'm paraphrasing. I don't know the entire Ride monologue word for word, although I maybe should. But again, that's what 8th house is like what's beneath the surface, what scares us a little bit. Like 8th house is about surrender, right? And when it comes to desire, it's this part of us that is very unquenchable and raw and wild. And oftentimes that sort of desire can make us scared. It can make us fearful. And so that's when we can go into the path around wanting to do what's conventional and not wanting to tap into those aspects of ourselves that feel wild, that feel raw, that feel uncontrollable, unquenchable. And so this new moon is about tapping into it, not feeling guilty or wrong for wanting what it is that you want out of life. It is your life. And that final day will come. So it's like you get to spend this time how it is that you want. And when it comes to 8th house, it's also around surrendering. And with this energy of Lilith, like again, it's like things that will happen that were out of your control, and your only decision that you have is how it is that you navigate it, how it is that you just let it happen, surrender. And also some other manifestations is that some of you can be making peace with certain desires that you have as it relates to your partner's finances. Maybe you, with Venus retrograde here, you've really been questioning what are the financial expectations that I have with somebody that I am married to or what have you. And with this new moon, it's really around not feeling shameful for that. Like, stability is a part of a relationship, and there can be a focus upon that. And with the energy of Lilith, it can be desires that we make wrong, right? Feel like, oh, well, you're being materialistic. And this is energy around, no, these are just expectations that I have for someone that I choose to get married to. And also for some of you, you need to be more assertive as it relates to support that you receive from others, whether it is child support, alimony. That's all 8th house themes around how support reaches us from others. With the energy of Lilith, you might be wanting to back down, not wanting to cause any trouble, not wanting to assert what it is that you deserve or your children deserve. But this energy of Lilith about tapping into your power, right? Getting comfortable disrupting the role around, it's just important to keep the peace. It's like, no, this is not fair. It's the support that's owed to me. As well as with this energy of the new moon here, it can just be planting the seeds for other streams of support that you want to reach you. If the Leo new moon lands within the 9th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Sagittarius rising, or you may just have 23 degrees Leo in the 9th house. Either way, this message is for you. And for you, where this rebellious reclaiming energy, it really is taking place as it relates to your belief systems around what it is that you believe in. So for some of you, maybe you've been forced into a certain religion, either now or within the past. Some of you could be reflecting on that programming you received simply because Venus is retrograde, and reflecting if it's right for you, if it's something that you value. And with the energy of Lilith, it is a little bit of a rebellious energy around, this is not aligning with my personal worldview, and thus I'm going to rebel against it, or rebel against the role that I've been told I should play in accordance to this religion or this practice or what have you. And for some of you, you can be really tapping into your power, your spiritual power. Maybe some of you have been avoiding the witchy part of your personality because you are fearful of its power, right? Like whenever I think of Lilith, it's not technically related, but I always think of the Salem witch trials, right? And how these women were persecuted and hunted down because they were scared of them, right? Scared of this power. And sometimes we can be scared of that aspect of ourselves. And with this energy of new moon Lilith, it's understanding the power that can come from emboldening the entirety of our spiritual journey wherever it may lead. Some of you may be reclaiming certain desires that you have as it relates to places that you want to travel to. Sounds silly, but maybe that's not in alignment with the people around you. Like maybe you're being told it's unrealistic to want to travel and go to new places, and this is you reclaiming around, no, this is what it is that I want for my future. I want a nomadic lifestyle. This feels right for me. It's where my heart is. Leo is all about the heart space. Some of you could be really questioning whether college is right for you, higher learning. Some of you can be on this path around wanting to get your master's, or otherwise just dig into a form of study, whether it's spiritual study, philosophical study, and really following what is right for you, right? And following the path of where it is that you experience this opening up of meaning. Because when it comes to 9th house, this is about going on a quest. And the thing about going on a quest is that it's a personal quest, right? It's a personal quest for meaning. That's how you arrive to your personal sense of faith, is questioning normal, right? Whether it's like, I grew up in this particular religion, or I'm expected to get this particular degree. It's questioning normal, whether that's right for you, and emboldening your own personal truth and what it is that you will learn on the way. Whether you want to go for the search for meaning by traveling, whether it's learning something new. With the square to Uranus, you can be craving a change in this arena. I know they want me to go to college, but that's not feeling right. I know I'm expected to continue on my career, but I want to get my master's. I know I'm expected to do this, but I would rather travel for a year. This is your life. And when it comes to 9th house, this is faith, this is spirituality. And those are not things people can define for you. And if they have been decided for you, this is a time to question. Question what it is that you believe in, and if it's serving your overall worldview. And if you don't feel like you align to a higher vision, right? Whether that is, astrology, numerology, whether that's a philosophy, that's religion, like 9th house is how it is that we find meaning out in the world. This new moon is around planting the seeds, around getting closer to your authentic worldview, your authentic form of faith and spirituality and higher connection. If the Leo new moon lands within the 10th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. You may potentially be a Scorpio rising, but you don't have to be. You may just have 23 degrees Leo within the 10th house. This message is for you. And the emphasis for you is really around emboldening that it is safe to be seen. And it always cracks me up that a lot of people with Scorpio risings have Leo midheavens, because it's very much giving like, look at me, don't look at me, look at me, don't look at me. Because Scorpio risings, like a lot of times they do want to be very private, and Leo midheaven is all about being seen and being seen within your authenticity and chiseling your star power. And the thing about stars is that sometimes they can be controversial. And when it comes to, being a Scorpio rising, embrace extremes. Even if you're not a Scorpio rising, with this new moon here, embrace dissent, embrace people who don't understand your vision, embrace people where your power stepping into a boardroom and leading a meeting where that makes people uncomfortable, right? Own your star power, whether that shows up within a leadership context, as a creative, online, what have you. This is the energy around understanding that people will try to disempower you. They will try to criticize your art. They will try to sneer at you as you're leading that meeting, but you cannot allow those sort of reactions to get to you, to keep you from shining. And with this new moon here, it is a new start as it relates to career, and particularly leadership, and not being fearful of the power that more eyeballs will grant you and the criticism that more eyeballs will grant you. It's really around questioning, where did I feel like I had to hide? And a lot of times this goes deep, right? It goes from trying to survive when we were younger, right? Not feeling safe to shine, but question if your fear around visibility is keeping you from reaching the next stage of your career, the next stage of your art. If you are somebody where your career does not align with where your heart is, this is a new moon around getting in alignment with it. And with the energy of conjoining Lilith and squaring Uranus, most likely in the 7th house, people may not understand your vision. They do not understand your passion. They do not understand your ambition, and they don't have to. And this new moon is around planting the seeds around, no, I know that you want me to be a computer programmer, but my heart is in being a veterinarian, what have you. Whatever the path is for you, your heart will lead the way. And whether it's fear of visibility around embodying the leader, the celebrity, the creative, the business person, what have you, that you know is within you, whether it's fear of that or fear of what other people would say, this is a new moon to really not feel guilty for wanting what it is that you want. Because maybe for some of you, your dreams are so big, you're like, I've always wanted to be famous and I don't know why, or I've always wanted to leave this huge impact, that you could even question, could it possibly be me? Could I possibly be somebody who fulfills all this? This desire picked you. Do not be ashamed of wanting what it is that you want. The people who achieve big things are the people who don't feel guilty or like they're wanting too much by going after and chasing what it is that they want. With this energy of Lilith, really unpack any feelings of shame or guilt that you have around career or outside of that, reputation, public persona, okay? Like for some of you with this energy, if you own your own business, get comfortable saying no. You have to be the bad guy sometimes. You cannot serve every single customer. I know sometimes there can be an emphasis on reputation, just wanting to keep everybody happy, and to a certain degree, the customer is always right. But if you are bending over backwards to try to accommodate every single person, some boundaries may need to be in place, my love. And this is the new moon to really plant the seeds around that. If this new moon lands within the 11th house of your astrological natal chart, you may potentially be a Libra ascendant, or you just have 23 degrees Leo within the 11th house. This message is for you, and the emphasis for you, this Leo new moon, is truly around your network, your community. And for some of you, this could come to the surface around needing to be a little fiercer as it relates to your boundaries around what it is that you need or want from people within your friendship group, and around not feeling ashamed of your desires around, yes, I do hold my friends up to this particular expectation. And no, you're not going to make me feel stupid for wanting that, for wanting clarification of why you flaked on me or what have you. For some of you, if you've been playing the role of being the martyr friend, the therapist friend, without also getting your needs within a friendship, this could be a time to really assert yourself. And with this energy, if you are craving new friendships, and particularly with this new moon squaring Uranus conjoining Lilith, friends with other people who are rebellious, right? Other people who are authentic and weird and empower you to be weird and celebrate your weird and love to see you shine and light up in the ways that make you feel good. This is a new moon around planting the seeds to call those people in. And for some of you, that could be friends, but also if you're online, calling in a community of people who are emboldened and weird and into weird stuff and eccentric. Like, those are the interesting people to be around anyway, right? And for some of you, maybe this is a boundary check as it relates to your audience. Like, a creator I follow had that, like, she posted something where it was like, boundary check, these are things that I'm not okay with. And sometimes that's necessary. There are certain things that might make you uncomfortable as somebody online. And maybe this is a new moon around planting seeds around, no, this is not something that I will tolerate within my community. And for some of you, you've been wanting to share online or anything of that nature, but you're fearful of backlash. This is a new moon to welcome it in. I know it's hard with this energy of Lilith squaring Uranus. Like, Lilith was not afraid of being disliked. She was like, this is not right. I'm not going to be subservient. I'm not going to conform. I'm going to embolden my own pathway. And for you, maybe you want to be online, but you're like, what will people from my hometown say? What will my friends say? Like, the right people will get it. And sure, people will talk crap about it, but what would you rather live with? Some gossip now, or a lifetime wondering what would have happened? What would have happened if I was able to share creatively or share online or what have you? And when it comes to 11th house, it's also about humanitarian aims. So maybe with the energy of the conjunction of Lilith that's squaring Uranus is embodying this energy of sacred rage around, no, it's not okay what we're doing to our planet, around, no, it's not okay the, company culture. 11th house has to do with colleagues. No, this is not okay. Like, Lilith and Uranus are energies that disrupt the norm. And a lot of times it's easy to go with the flow around what everybody else wants, but 11th house is about the future. So it's like, if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. And what we've been getting is unjust and not right. And I'm going to say something about it. And I don't care if you think I'm rude or bossy or what have you, this is not okay. So that can also be an emphasis with this new moon for you. And if the Leo new moon lands within the 12th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. And the emphasis for you, this Leo new moon, is all around shadow work, because 12th house goes deep. And I find it very fascinating because 12th house is the house of shadows, and Leo is governed by the sun, which is the light bearer. And so it's really around bringing sun to the shadowy parts of your mind and of your heart and illuminating them. So for some of you, with this new moon on Lilith, you are emboldening the parts of your life that you've shoved back, or the parts of your identity that you have shoved back, not wanting to be seen as a diva or a princess, or thinking that you were boastful or what have you. A lot of you push down your specialness or your radiance in an effort to be humble, and like, with this new moon, you really need to question if that is working for you. When it comes to shadow work, yes, sometimes we need to face our self-sabotaging behaviors. You need to look at that with this new moon. Sometimes we have to face our secrets, what it is that we've repressed, but we also need to face our greatness, our creativity. And it's like, sometimes you can keep yourself in the shadows, not allow all of you to be seen as an effort to keep yourself safe or to maintain the guides around being helpful and modest, but you need to get real about who it is that you are and holding yourself accordingly. You do need to look at self-sabotage. Again, you could self-sabotage yourself by not allowing yourself to be seen. You could self-sabotage by overworking yourself as a form of escapism. You could self-sabotage by putting yourself in situations where your boundaries are violated because you are not standing up for yourself. You have this sign that governs identity and how it is that we shine in this hidden house. So a lot of times it can be easy for you to essentially bite your tongue or to stay hidden or to just go with the flow, and it stops here with this new moon. With this new moon on Lilith, it's no longer fearing your power. It's no longer fearing holding yourself highly, knowing who it is that you are and shining that out. And you'll get more confident the more you lean into shadow work during this time. Whether you push back your faults, your flaws, you're very critical, you're a Virgo ascendant, so maybe there's parts of you that feel raw and messy, so you shove them into the crevices of your life in an effort to not let anybody see. And maybe some of you, you shine your creative talents, your star power back into the recesses of your mind because you don't want to be judged for it. Or you feel that if people saw that, they would criticize you as much as you criticize yourself. Get real with yourself with this new moon here. And also get real with yourself as it relates to your intuitive abilities. This could be a source of power, but with this connection to Lilith, you can fear this part of you, so you keep it subdued. There can be things that you are running from. There can be a desire for independence that is bubbling within you that you are scared of, so you suppress, and this new moon calls for an embodied, authentic, independent new start from the inside out. So my loves, that is our Leo new moon. This one is wild. It's disruptive. It's shocking. It's controversial. And embrace that your path and your life will require you to be a little controversial at some times, to generate some buzz, to question normal, to walk your own path. If you navigate through life never receiving any criticism or any backlash ever, that's when you should really start to question things, right? Because what's the quote? Well-behaved women rarely make history. Like, well-behaved humans rarely live out their passions and rarely turn their life into an extension of their heart space. So question normal, question convention, question your role. My loves, make sure to check out Self-Care Astrology. Doors are closed at the end of August. That'll be the last opportunity that you can jump into those 5 bonus group classes. I would so love to have you there. My Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. I would so love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.